Welcome back to Unstable Conversations. In today's episode, Rachel and I are sharing our stories about how each of us got involved in a sport that ultimately consumed us and made us who we are today. Before we dive into the episode, if you could hit that like and subscribe button, that would mean the world to us. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, and Patreon. We hope you enjoy the episode. I don't think I told you this. So, me and my mom have been going to brunch after church
Well,
every Sunday, and we went to a diner and I was like trying to find a parking spot and like I went around a turn and I didn't realize that there was like no stop sign in a part where honestly there probably should have been a stop sign like in the parking lot. And we're going like 2 miles per hour, like me and like all the other cars. I just like turned in front of this guy because like I thought that he had a stop sign. I'm telling you, He he started raging on me,
God.
and he, like, went by me, and I just, like, stopped the car and looked at him. I was like, "What is the I was just, like, in awe of, like,
Yeah,
"Why is this man being so aggressive?" And then he
that's
just gave me
crazy.
the finger,
No way.
and I was like and I'm whatever, like, I've gotten a lot better at not reacting to that stuff, but
Yeah,
it's like, that was so
especially after
bad.
you get out of church.
Dude, that's what my mom was like, right after church too. It's like I mean, like, I don't know.
No, that's insane.
I feel like COVID made people so aggressive and, like, crazy
Well,
when driving.
there's, like, a lot of, I feel like people have somehow been programmed to go insane because I don't remember people being this aggressive. Like, even how you go on TikTok and within, like, 10 minutes, I see some 40-year-old lady yelling at a cashier, and it's like, this was not this common 5 years ago. I don't know when people started acting like this.
Dude, it's so bad. I just see too many people around me watching things thinking it's really funny when it's actually, like, off-putting, and you're like, "How are
Yeah.
you watching this?" It's like everyone is so desensitized to that stuff, and then it's like I feel like they take that into real life. It's, like, so bad. But that was
Yeah.
bad.
No,
I
that's
don't know.
insane.
That was really bad. And then on top of that, yesterday when I don't think I told you about how we caught the pony that escaped. So the pony has one eye, right? And
Wait,
she's
how
like
did that
20.
happen?
So I don't exactly know, but I
'Cause this
know that
is
the
Gigi,
guy
right?
I know that the guy that cleans the stall, like, he brings the wheelbarrow, like, into the stall to make it easier for him. So I almost think that she saw, like, a way to get around it, and she's
Oh.
not like a crazy like, the pony, whatever, but she's not crazy, and I think she saw an opening and just took it, and the
Yeah,
doors were open because it was nice out. I didn't think about how hard it would be to catch a pony that has one eye.
that's true.
So she was full speed galloping around. You have like me and Manuel chasing her, and then she ran into a paddock and caught her. But that was, uh,
Yeah,
I don't
that's
know.
wild. I have, like, so much PTSD too from having to catch all of those. Like, having to catch the horses that try to kill you, like Remy. I
Uh,
always think
that was
about that
really.
day.
I also just remember like there was a time period where we were nonstop catching horses that would kill
Yeah.
us, and we were the only ones that cared about
Well,
catching them.
that one day where, like, the horse stepped on the chain and we turn around and whoever it was just, like, walked away. We were
Yeah.
like, "Cool,
No, it's
thanks."
actually so bad.
I feel like this week I've just been so busy and, like, stressed about work and stuff. I feel like my brain is fried from
That's
that, but it's
love.
weird because I do enjoy it as well, so it's kind of like a weird balance. And then also the lady that takes care of my horses is away this week, so I have to, like, go there and take care of them, and it was totally fine until I showed up and there was another client there today, which is very rare because there's 3 other horses there, so I usually don't see anybody, but she was asking me all of these questions about, like, the owner being away and everything like that, and I was like,
Oh,
"Oh
geez.
gosh, I have no clue."
Please don't even tell me.
Yeah, well, that's where I was like, "This is the only place I've been able to find, like, I feel so lucky to be here."
Oh my god. That is why is there always that one person at every single place? It can
And she was, like, asking me all these questions, and I was like, "Why don't you just text the owner or, like, ask her about it. I don't think she'll mind. She'd probably rather you ask her what's going on than be worried, but she didn't wanna do that because I think she was worried about getting kicked out for some reason.
Oh my god. Maybe you're getting kicked out because you're not communicating. Like,
Yeah.
that's so bad,
No, I mean, I deal with that every single Sunday now, which is really fun.
which is crazy.
It was
I
funny
was so
'cause,
confused when you first told me about that. I was like,
well,
"What?"
so I get a call last week on Friday, I got a call from and she was like, "Oh, you mentioned that you were gonna water the indoor when you're here on Sundays." I was like,
What?
"This is the first time I'm hearing that," and I told her, I'm like, "I'm happy to do it if it helps you out, but nobody said anything to me." And she was like, "My god, I can't believe it. That's just, like, how it is." I was like,
Wait, so
"This
how do
is
you water the
crazy."
indoor? Do you just have to use a hose?
Yeah, he doesn't have sprinklers, so you literally just stand there with the ho
Jeez. You should get that stuff that they spray on the footing to make it, like, not dusty.
I was thinking about it, but didn't that give the horses scratches?
Oh, I have no clue, honestly. Probably. Well, I guess, like, I actually don't know how you started in this, like, with the horses. I feel like we've never actually fully talked about that,
Yeah, I don't think we
so I'm
have.
actually super interested to hear
Which is really
your
it's, like, kinda weird because 'cause we've been friends for so long, and it's, like, this new, like, show and tell sort of thing that we're doing. But what's
I
funny is my dad is actually the reason why I ride horses, which he's the one that put us together. So my dad has been a big driver in things in my life, which I'm now realizing. The first time I ever rode a horse was at a birthday party. So one of my friends from school, I guess her parents owned a barn or something, so she had a birthday party there. And
Mhm.
I was initially terrified, like everybody is, to get on a horse. And my dad, he said to me, and he said I was 3 when this happened as well, so I don't remember it. This is just recalling from my dad,
Wow.
but he told me that if I don't get on the horse, I'm gonna really regret it because it would be my only opportunity. Little did he know, he would really regret saying those words because it really took a turn for the worse after that,
That's
and
crazy.
yeah, he just kind of thought that I, uh, wasn't gonna want anything else to do with it after the birthday party, and then I guess in the car, I asked to start taking lessons, and so they bought me a lessons package, and they were my parents, and they were like, "Okay, whatever, this'll last a few weeks, and then she'll be done with it," and I never stopped, and that is how I got into it, which is crazy, and it's such a weird chance of circumstances as well.
So, did you start was it like a pony or an actual full-size horse that you got on when you
I
were
think it
3?
was a horse.
That's
'Cause I think that's why I was scared. Cause I was like I tried to do gymnastics when I was younger, and when they put us on the
really?
bar, I started crying because I thought I was gonna fall even though they put a mat, like, 2 feet underneath the bar. I was terrified of heights
Oh
as a
my
kid,
god.
so I
How
think
old were you when you did that?
around the same age. This was
Jeez.
around the age my parents forced me to do everything. So,
They're
like,
like, "Something needs to stick."
yeah, once they brought me to soccer tryouts, but I was too shy to try to play soccer, so they just got mad at me because I didn't wanna, like, leave their side.
Oh my gosh. Well, this was the perfect sport to get
Yeah,
into, I guess.
and what was the first time you ever rode a horse?
So, my sister is 9 years older than me. She was going on, like, a Girl Scout troop trip, like, trail ride at a
Mhm.
local farm, and while she was on the trail ride, the people that work at the place were, like, asking my mom, like, "Oh, like, does she wanna sit on the horse and, like, walk around?" I actually have a picture of it, and it's, like, the horse was
Really?
it was a big it was almost like a Clydesdale type of horse, which maybe that's why I'm obsessed with them because like, I think that they have such nice hair,
They
like, their
do.
mane and tail were Friesians. I'm obsessed with those horses.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so I got on and, like, I guess, like, it was so weird because I had to kinda I talked to my mom yesterday, I think, about all this stuff because I had to really refresh my memory.
Mhm.
And she was like, "Oh, yeah, like, they were, like, so impressed by, like, how I, like, wasn't scared." I was like, "Yeah, I wanna get on that thing." Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And then it was kind of similar to you where I mean, they weren't, like, trying to get me in, like, a whole bunch of different sports. That kind of, like that just stuck with me, and I was nonstop asking to take lessons, and they finally did a similar thing where they got a lesson package at the
Mhm.
local farm, and I was taking lessons every weekend since. I think that's actually crazy that we both we were both put on a horse at around the same age.
Yeah.
That's so weird, I didn't know that.
From there, I mean, I really just took lessons pretty much. I don't know about you, but I'd say most of riding for me was just lessening for a while until I ended up at the barn that we talked about in the last episode. And that's where I became more of a working student and started to get more
Mhm.
involved. But I really was just a barn rat for my whole life, pretty much. I just loved hanging out at the barn and loved being around the horses, and my parents would, like, send me to summer camp and stuff like that, but I never owned a horse myself for a while until I was 17, which I can talk
Mhm.
about a little bit later, but it was really hard to be in the lesson program because you were always riding different horses, and I also remember that sometimes you would show up and you wouldn't ride your favorite horse, or your favorite horse would be gone, and it was just, like,
Mm.
so
Yep, so did you go from so prior to the farm that we talked about in the last episode, like, were you at one barn between that first ride and the barn that we met at? Or, like, did you go to different barns, or did you follow a trainer, or did you I don't know. After I started taking lessons every weekend, I met a different trainer at that same facility, and she hopped around from barn to barn. I just followed her.
Yeah, I kinda did the same thing. I don't remember when I started riding with her, and she hopped around from barns quite a bit, but then she ended up just bringing her horses to her house or to her parents' house, and so it was in her parents' backyard. There was no indoor, and the outdoor is kind of, like, down a hill, so I can't believe that this happened when I was a kid. I would just go and hack this pony out in the outdoor by myself with absolutely no supervision. I was, like, 10 or 11.
So it is insane how so much has changed because I was actually kind of getting a little bit upset because I was like things were
Yeah.
so different in that time period because I while I was bouncing around that kind of sounds like these trainers are maybe not good, but like regardless of if they were good or not, I had two main trainers that I really stuck with after I started riding a lot
Mhm.
more, and even though they bounced around, they always gave me horses to ride. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I am so grateful for that. I looked back on my mom is crazy. She has like logs of how many horses I would ride a day. And like, dude, like from like when I was really young.
That's insane.
Crazy. Cause I called her and I was like, "Oh, do you remember what how we met this person?" And just to jog my memory. And she's like, "Oh, I have everything written down in this." It's like, "Oh, okay." Which I appreciate that.
You must have inherited that from her with the, like, never deleting a text message.
Probably, because it's useful at some point. Mm. I also just don't trust people, so
Yeah.
but no, I'm just you don't get that now. These 2 trainers, they didn't have to do that. Like, my mom paid for lessons, but, like, it wasn't like she was paying for a lesson on each horse. She would
Yeah.
pay for a lesson over the weekend, and then during the week after school, I would ride whatever they would give me, and it actually got to the point where I was in 3rd grade, and this is a core memory of mine. My mom got me a phone because
Mhm.
she was dropping me off at the barns by myself
Yeah.
so often that I needed a phone to make sure, she
Yeah.
just in case of an emergency or when I'm ready to be picked up, whatever. I remember I took the phone to school. I wasn't supposed to, but like I did. And everyone was like, "No way, like you can have a phone." Like, you know what I mean? I felt
Yeah.
so I felt so important. But anyway, I don't think a 3rd grader should have a phone.
No.
But
Especially
it
not now. That was, like
yeah.
we used to get a phone in the internet couldn't access you, like, you could text your grandma, and that would be it.
Oh, dude, that thing was like brick.
Yeah.
It was like one of those phones that like, had a small screen and just whatever, the keypad
Mhm.
underneath. So I just think it's amazing that I was being dropped off so often. It's like I was
Yeah.
just by myself and I had to work too to get those rides.
Yeah. And that happened a lot with the trainer that I grew up with, because I think my parents had some deal with her. I don't know if it was a half lease or something like that, but I would go and hack the pony a lot. And then I would be there waiting for my parents, and she'd be like, "Why don't you do the stall? You're not doing anything." Be like, "Oh," and looking back on it now, I mean, maybe that was part of the deal, I don't know, but, like, my parents were paying her and then she was getting free labor too. Not that it was valuable labor, but it's, like, it's crazy how young you start working and you're kind of treated as an adult in this industry. I feel like you're forced to grow up really, really quickly, and, like, most parents would not just drop their kid off and then leave them at a barn with all of these farm animals as well that they can just do whatever they want. Like, it's such an independent type of environment that I feel like has its benefits and its not great parts as well, but it's so interesting how unique it is.
Did you go through a pony riding phase? Which for I feel like anyone that doesn't know anything about horses, a pony is uh, like a smaller version of a horse for kids.
Yeah, and that lasted until I was at the barn that we met at, and
Oh, the
that's
pony
where
phase?
yeah, because I remember showing up there and the trainer was like, "I hate ponies because they're so close to hell, they always throw me off." And I was like and she's like, "Let me get on this pony that I'm gonna have you ride, she might throw me off." And I was like
So
but I think I rode, like, my first horses there, which was funny because I was so nervous making the jump from a pony to a horse.
yeah, I feel like that is super nerve-wracking. I have always been on a mix. Like I never really had like the one trainer's horse that I actually took to a show was like this 17 hand warm blood.
Oh my god.
It was a big horse. That was the one where I think it was like the first or second show, which was like you do those classes. I don't remember what they're called, but they're the cross rail lines and you just like
Yeah,
basically go
short
around.
stirrup,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know why I think it's that. I don't know why I couldn't remember that. It's been a long time. But, like, I remember I was going over the last jump and I had her leave too early and she, like, scissored the jump and literally flipped over, like, on the ground, and
Oh
I
gosh,
I catapulted off of her.
I bet.
And, like, dude, I got the wind knocked out of me and I had road rash over me, and, like, I got up and I saw my parents were like, "Oh my god, like, are you okay?" And my parents don't usually freak out, but that was a really bad one, and
Well, especially if you're on a big horse too and I mean, anybody on a big horse, but especially
yeah.
a kid, that is actually terrifying.
Yeah, and, like, they're trying because I remember the medics being over there, and I was like, "Where's the horse? Like, is the horse okay?" Like, I was more worried about the horse as I couldn't breathe, and I'm, like, have, like, road rash on.
Yeah.
I don't know, that was, like I think that was a start to, like, many more crazy falls. I don't know. I'm happy I didn't go through pony phase because I can't imagine how hard it was to really transfer onto a horse because that's, like, a whole different thing,
Mhm.
a whole different skill, I feel like.
Yeah. I mean, even, like, the size difference between my 2, it's so weird going
Oh, I'm
from one
sure.
to the other. I mean, my older horse is basically a pony. He's really tiny. And then my young horse is the complete opposite extreme who he looks like a draft horse. He really should be pulling carts, honestly.
Yeah, yeah. No, that horse is huge.
I do have one funny pattern throughout my childhood is I was always trying to pull one over on the adults. And so which is really funny because I'm such a rule follower. So, like, I'll follow rules even if there's no one to enforce them just because that's the right thing to do. But
Yes.
For some reason, when I was a kid, I liked being smarter than the adults, and so I would always try to get away with whatever I could, and when I was at that barn that was in, the trainer's parents' backyard, there was another girl there who leased a horse, and me and her would always ride together, and when nobody was there, we would go into the paddocks and just gallop around and, like, race each other.
See, that's so much fun, and I think that's the fun that a lot of kids now don't experience, because I
Yeah.
also have a lot of memories of, because when I ended up at a farm closer to my house, that's when we ended up buying Romeo, because
Mhm,
he was actually, I don't know if I told you this, but, like, the reason why we ended up with him is because I was at the time the only one that could ride him, and he's an off the track thoroughbred, and
mhm.
he was, like, fresh out of, like, the auction and stuff, and, it was really bad, like, the guy that owned him was like, "I'm gonna take him back to the auction." He didn't wanna put the time into him, so my dad, like, offered him, I think he, like, got him for $1,500, which is insane.
Wow. Yeah.
But me and this other girl, they used to fall off her horse all the time, which was insanely, I always, like, would make sure she was okay, but I would almost pee my pants every time, and this is, I'm, like, in middle school, so, like, we used to gallop through the fields and, like, through the woods, and, like, I feel sad for the kids now that don't get to experience that, because it's all about, really your expensive horse that you
Mhm.
can't ruin,
Yeah.
quote, unquote.
And in my opinion, that makes them sounder. Cause I think about it just as, like, us, where if you ran a marathon and then laid in bed, you would feel terrible. But if you were
Yeah.
just hiking every day regularly, your ligaments and your tendons and everything in your legs would strengthen to be used to that kind of work. It's so frustrating because I feel like it's so good for riders 'cause it makes it fun, and then it also makes you brave as well, but then it's so good for the horses, and it's so good for the horses' brains too. I really wish that we had more of that. It's kinda sad that a lot of trainers that allowed that have been priced out of the sport and are really either have to, like, shut down or they're just trying to survive now.
Yeah, and I feel like for people listening, like, I so the horse industry has clearly changed a lot from, like,
Yeah.
10 years ago till now, and, you know, now everyone has their horses in bubble wrap. They're
Mhm,
$500,000, and, compared to the horses that we were riding, they were like, "My horse is $1,500," and, like, look, he taught me so much, that horse. I am, again, so grateful for that experience, because I wouldn't be who I am today if I didn't have those experiences, and I just think it's just crazy. I guess it's hard to understand if you're not in it, but it's like night and day.
yeah.
You don't find all of those horses are now being sent to
Mhm,
for, like, slaughter and stuff, and, like, so that's really sad, because they're very valuable, and it's valuable for young kids that, and before we had to work, like we were talking about, we were
mhm,
work, quote, unquote, "work," right? Because how
yeah,
much how much is a
yeah,
30 grader doing? Like, still, you had to do something in exchange, right? So now these kids show up to the barn and they expect things to just be given to them. Even if I feel like I don't know too much about the local barns, but I've heard that it is the same. No, the kids don't want to pick up a pitchfork. They don't want to do anything.
no.
So they just want to do the fun things, which, unfortunately, especially working with horses and farm animals, it's not always fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it is sad, but
No, it is. It's sad how much everything has changed, but it's funny that you talked about Romeo because a big part of my horse riding journey was when I got my first horse, Rex, who was actually given to me for free. And I think that he was given to me to take the cost off of my trainer, but that's okay. But he showed up at the barn. She bought him, I think, for like $10,000 for her daughter, and her daughter at the time was pretty young, but also a
sorry.
small kid.
Yeah.
I actually wasn't there, but if you want to tell the story of what happened.
I actually just got the My god. This horse is he was a big horse too.
Yeah.
It's a
Also,
really
like,
big
should have been
horse.
pulling carts.
And, like, this girl, how old was she? She was,
I
like,
think I feel like she was, like, 7 or something, like, she was very young,
yeah,
maybe 10?
I'm pretty sure I was helping her that day, and her daughter came down to the ring and, like, had already gone on Rex to just make sure he was, like, safe for the most part.
And he was. I never fell off that horse ever,
No,
like
he was super
yeah.
safe. Like, he was really an awesome horse, and she gets on this horse, and she's doing okay walking around, and she starts trotting, and then all of a sudden, the horse just starts going faster and faster and faster on the ring and then it got to the point where, like, this horse was out of control, galloping around the ring and the outdoor ring. God, there's a fence there because he
Yeah.
would've he would've it was like that video that I sent you, I forget his name, but, it's the same thing where that horse literally, like, took off galloping, and she was like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa," and she was, like, started screaming on top of Rex, and, like, he kept trying to, like, catch the rein. I don't remember how he stopped, but somehow he stopped. I think he stopped because she got in front of him, but that was the worst thing that horse did. He was just a strong horse. He was a
Yeah.
powerful horse, and
He was, and he had previously jumped a lot of Grand Prix, and then he broke his hip in a trailer accident, and he was the only horse to survive. And the crazy thing about that is the lady that crashed that trailer, I think she crashed another trailer after that. I don't know who let her drive after that whole situation, but
that's actually kind of disgusting. That's really bad.
so he broke his hip in that accident, and then the owners rehabbed him because he was jumping at a really high level, and he was at one point a really, really good horse. So they wanted to try to keep their investment, I think. And the crazy thing is, Rex kept doing Grand Prix after he broke his hip. And then they were like, wait, this is actually not really right to ask him to do. So they wanted to sell him for cheaper. No, $10,000 is not a little bit of money, but in the horse industry, that is a cheaper horse.
Yeah.
So that's how, ended up having him, and then you were riding him for quite a while, actually, and I don't
Oh,
even
dude, I have
remember.
I love that horse. I have a lot of pictures. I have a printed out picture
Mhm.
of me jumping him.
Yeah,
It
he
was
was
really he was
awesome.
such an awesome horse. He taught me a lot too.
Yeah.
And I think it's so awesome that you ended up with him because
Mhm.
that's what he deserved, you know? I mean, for a horse that I mean, unless other people have stories of a horse with a broken hip that continued to jump Grand Prix, it is
Might be
insane.
the only one. I
Dude,
don't
no,
know if
he it is
anybody else
insane.
would do that,
Um,
and what's so crazy is I remember, like, the day that B offered to give him to me, I had a lesson, and she was like, "You know I would give him to you," and I was like, "What?" She was like, "Yeah, I would give him to you, and I would only charge you half board because you're here working all the time anyway," and so then conveniently, the lady that was working for my dad at the time ended up quitting, and my dad was like, "Hey, Rach, if you wanna come work for me to pay for that horse, you can do that." So then I worked for my dad in order to pay board and then worked at the barn in order to reduce my board, but then I feel like the rest is history, honestly, and it's really funny because that was such a life-changing moment for me. I had spent my whole life wishing for a horse, and I didn't realize that I would get my first horse at 17, and then I would own horses for the rest of my life. So it's
that is
funny to look
crazy,
back on that, how, like, I was like, "This is impossible, it's never gonna happen," and now I look back and I'm like, "If you only knew what was coming for you."
right? No, it's yeah, and that's another thing, purchasing the horse was one thing, right? But then it's
Mhm.
like, it is so much money. I mean, how much was board at the time? It was probably, like, at a really good place, it was probably around 1,500 a month for full board.
Yeah, and she
I
did
rem Yeah,
'cause he lived outside and outside I think it was 1,400 because it was half of outside board was half of normal board, and
Oh,
then
yeah.
she cut that in half for me, so I was paying $350 a month.
Yeah, but that's my point. You still had to kind of work with her and also
Mhm,
work for your dad, and that was kind of similar to when I had gotten Romeo. I think I was in middle school when I got Romeo, I can't really remember, but it was around that time period. But this was, like, the local farm, so even the board there wasn't even that much, but it's like we couldn't afford it, and, like, I had to get up at 5 a.m. before school, go take care of that horse, go to school, and then go take care of him again and
mhm.
ride, and then go back home and do schoolwork. Like, I mean, we did I don't know, I was, like, looking when I was looking back on this, I was like, I feel like I did not only my parents, but I also put in the work. I feel like we did everything we could to try to get me somewhere, and it all came down to, like, the finances of
Yeah.
it. Yeah. And I think that's I don't know, it's, like, really sad. That's where I kind of was sad about it. This is not like, "Oh, if only my parents were more supportive," or
Mhm.
if only, you know, I worked harder. I was I remember I was, bucked off. I was a guinea pig for my trainers at that time. They would put me on horses that literally I one time got bucked off and, like, dragged, you know what I mean? Experiences like that, and I just kept getting back on. And I don't know, it's sad that it doesn't matter how hard you work or how passionate you are about it, or if you have, you got Rex, or if I got my horse, it still wasn't good enough. And I think it continued to get worse as time went on. And luckily for you, I think really got through to you and you ended up going to college, right?
Yeah, which Rex came with me to
I
college.
forgot about that.
My parents and I had so many fights about that because they were like, "Rachel, you're gonna go away to school and your horse isn't gonna be taken care of, and then you're gonna be all stressed out and all this stuff." And I told them, I'm like, "If Rex doesn't go to college, then I'm not going to college."
Oh my god.
I was so serious. There was a 0% chance I was leaving that horse anywhere. I was so attached to him. I think,
Yeah.
like, when I had him, I saw him every single day. I None of my other horses have had that treatment.
No, I
But
I
I was
think
like, "I cannot do this without him." No. Because it gave me such a sense of familiarity at college. Because that was really challenging, especially going from such a small school to then I didn't go to a big college, but it felt massive to me, and the schoolwork was also super challenging, so it was so nice to have something that helped me decompress. I don't think I would have gotten through college without having my horses, honestly. It
no.
was so
And
helpful.
did you have to work too when you were in college to
Mhm.
have
Yeah.
Rex?
So
Yeah.
I worked at the barn, on Sundays because that was the manager's day off, and then I think I got paid like $10 to $15 per hour, and I would just keep track of my hours, and that would get taken off of my board. Just like I was working to reduce board when I first got Rex, I was also doing that all throughout college, and it ended up being such a good situation. It was hard because it was 45 minutes away from school.
Oh, gee, that's
So
so yeah, that's
yeah,
hard.
that was tough, but besides that, it was really great, and I mean, I love doing barn chores, honestly, which is really funny, but I feel like it's such a nice break from especially when you're in college and everything feels so existential all of the time, and it's really nice to be held accountable and, like, have to show up somewhere regardless of what else is going on. So, that
Yeah.
was really, really valuable, but I was in college, I actually pushed my sleep schedule to the max. There were some nights
Some
I
night
would go out to, like, a party and be out until, like, 4 or 5 and then come back and be at the barn at 7:30 in the morning somehow, and I remember there was one night, this, like, one friend texted me, they were like, "Enjoy your 2 hours of sleep."
that is insane. I forgot what I was gonna ask. I had it in my head, but then I just forgot. I just think that's such a commitment to have
Mhm.
a horse in college. It's not like you just, like, took him with you and your parents were like, "Oh, yeah, we'll just, like, pour you through this
No.
somehow,"
And I had a
financially
sales horse
speaking.
too, like, later on, which was even more challenging because I had pressure to develop him on top of school, and then there was even more pressure because my dad had taken some of his money out of his retirement to get me that horse, so he looked at it as an investment, and I felt a lot of pressure for that, so that was, like, another aspect is I kind of always had to show up and ride, and that was really challenging, and I'm so grateful to my trainer in college, Megan, who was the absolute best mentor. I adore her and her family so much, and her and I had a lot of really challenging conversations where I would be crying, and I'd be like, "I can't do this
Yeah.
anymore. I'm gonna drop out of school, or I'm gonna quit riding." Like, it was really challenging, but I'm so grateful that she was such a positive person during a lot of those times for me as well.
My age is so difficult, honestly, in
Mhm.
general, just aside from the worst stuff, that age is so difficult,
Yeah.
very emotional.
And
Mm,
everybody tells you you're an adult too, but you're really not. And that was
no,
kind of like
no.
the hard part.
I'm gonna petition for, that to be changed to 21. I feel like you shouldn't be able to be an adult until you're 21. Seriously, if you can't drink until you're 21, why are we saying that 18-year-olds are adults?
Yeah.
I also forgot to mention, Um, I feel like this is important to mention because it kind of helped me socially because that was another thing was, like, we're talking about all of this stuff and, like, how much work it was to even just be able to ride daily or on the weekend, and that took away from my social life. I don't know
Mhm.
how it really affected yours, but prior to us meeting even, it's just, like, I was so isolated and by choice, like, I wanted to
Yeah.
be around the horses, and I think our story on how we met in the first episode is kind of telling on even at the barn, I wasn't very social
Mhm. Yeah.
with other people. So I actually did end up when I entered high school, I was on the IAA team, which is the interscholastic I couldn't have said that any worse. Equestrian Association. And I did that for uh all through high school. We went to nationals, and that was, like, a really cool experience. I still wasn't as social as I should have been because it's like I was going to that practice, which was, like, an hour, and then I would go ride somewhere else. So I
Yeah.
was, like, still trying to juggle riding more competitively because I was also where, like, the I integrated in at and, I thought that was, like, super important. We talked about that farm was on a pedestal and, like, it as it should have been because that place was really great. It's different now. I don't think she does the same thing anymore, but, so I it helped me just be a little bit more social,
Mhm.
and then as you were going to college, I was also a year ahead of you, I think, so, like or 2 years ahead of you, jeez. But I feel like My I wasn't linear, I wasn't like, okay, you
Mhm.
go from high school to college, whatever. I was so just like, I need to keep riding.
Yeah.
And I actually went and started training with Marilyn Payne, who is I think she was an Olympic judge for eventing, I think. I probably should have just continued down the path of eventing because I think that was a different world than hunter jumper.
Mhm.
So I was going down that path for a little bit, and then I took dressage lessons, stuff like that. But as far as college goes, like it always told me too about going to college,
Yeah.
and like it was sticking with me. And I actually even went to the CPI horse show, which is in Florida, and
Mhm.
that kind of gives you a chance to get a scholarship because you have a bunch of recruiters there. And I really wanted to go to Sweetbriar. Actually, ended up winning one of the classes, which was awesome.
Yeah, that's so awesome.
And I think it's super useful for people that really do want to just go to college for I originally was going to go for equine science, which I had mentioned I think last episode, but like I uh, don't think that that's where it's useful. I think that anyone that wants to go to college for anything else but equine science and they want to ride, they want to
Yeah.
continue riding on a riding team and stuff in college. I think it's super useful.
Mhm. And that's what
But
one of the girls who was on, because I know you did IEA and then the college version of that is IHSA.
yeah,
And I did that up until COVID, because COVID happened and then things kinda got weird. But before that, one of the girls that was on IHSA with, she got her business degree, and then she actually went and started working after graduating for a trainer, and now she's a rider. And
but
she's
nice.
talked about how her business degree has helped her leverage understanding that aspect of it more, and it's given her, like, a leg up as well. And she's one of the first people that I had really come in contact with that has a non-horse degree, but then ended up back in horses, so I definitely think that's the way to go, just like you were saying.
That's what I mean. And I was getting mixed. advice from
Mhm.
people in the industry. And I, of course, didn't want to listen to anyone outside of it because all I want to do is be a rider. So I had people saying to go get an equine science degree, stay on that path and ride in college. And then I had other people being like, if you actually want to be a rider, going to college is not going to help you.
Yeah.
And so that's when I started working. I was really kind of a working student for this person that I work for full time now. He was actually letting me show a nice horse. I showed another really nice horse, an eck, and
Mhm.
I felt like I was kind of getting somewhere. I was riding like 7 horses a day for him. And then as the years went on, was just like, the industry, this is feeling like it's becoming more and more unattainable.
Yeah.
I'm, like, seeing it happen in real time, like, wait, and it is no fault to him. I'm not asking someone to, finance my riding, like, that's
Yeah.
not his job. He was helping where he could, and it was starting to get to the point where I wasn't making enough money because I was kind of still a working student, and I was, like,
Like,
17, 18.
I was gonna say it's really hard to make any money at 17, 18.
Yeah, yeah, and I was working 7 days a week, and I wanted to, right, because I
Mhm.
like, set not all the time, but I was working 6 to 7 days a week, just helping at the shows so I could keep riding. Like, really the only thing that we were paying for, when I say we, my parents were paying for, were, like, the classes I was entering in,
Yeah.
and that started to become so insanely expensive that
Yeah.
we were, like, kind of just like, "Can't do this anymore."
He's, like, the
That
only reason why I was able to show because he did something similar for me where I just paid the actual costs of being there, so, like, I'd have to pay for the hay and shaving splits if we were away for a week, or I'd have to pay for classes, but, like, training, shipping, anything like that, even the guys would help tack up, and we didn't have to pay for that. But it's
Yeah.
crazy that even with help like that, you're still paying thousands of dollars a week to participate, and that's the entry fees. That's not
Yeah.
the cost of the horse that you're also paying for. It's not all of the equipment, it's not the clothing as well. It's so crazy that it really takes so much money just for somebody to even get the experience needed to then be a rider in this sport.
Yeah, and I don't know how you feel, but I feel like I felt like I was welcomed in that facility, and it's funny, just so, like, everyone knows, you were kind of in and out when you were in college, right? Like, I started working there as I think you were still a and I started working there, and then you eventually went to college, and then you
Well, I brought Rex there. So actually, cause Rex was living outside and the winter was coming up and I didn't want him living outside during the winter. And you
Mhm.
had suggested, you were like, "Why don't you go talk to the owner of this farm?" And I was like, "Okay, sure." And he was like, "How much are you paying right now?" And I was like, $350. He was like, "Okay, that's fine. Do you need someone to pick your horse up?" Like, what? Like, it was that easy, and I was so shocked. So, I am, like, very appreciative of that because there's no way I could have done what I did. Even just having a horse and having him in a stall was not possible for me unless I was in that situation, and then I would go away to college during, like, the fall and the spring, then come back and groom for the summers, and I also had the sales horse that I purchased with him as well too when I was in college, so I was kind of always,
Yeah.
like, bouncing around.
Was there any moment where you were like, "This is actually more difficult than I thought it was financially speaking. It's feeling like I actually
Yeah.
am not gonna be able to do it," or was it, like,
No, it's
later
been my
on?
whole life. I still feel that way, like, today,
I
but I
know,
think for me, I was so stubborn. I mean, I still am this way where I'm like, I won't eat if it means I have my horses. Like,
yeah,
that is the very last thing that I will give up because they give me so much joy and I love it so much and it's so worth the sacrifice. But even as an adult, like, I have a decent job and it's crazy to me because when I initially got my first job, I was like, I'm set. Like, I can do whatever I want. And then I realized I still can't afford this. I would have to be making $1,000,000 a year to be able to afford this, which is crazy
is
because I just wanna
yeah,
show 1 horse and have fun.
insane. For 1
Yeah.
horse, it's insane, and,
And it's
like,
not like we're, like, trying to do anything at the top level. I just wanna have fun. Like, anything I can do, I'm happy with because that's another thing.
that's where I got to that point where I was like, I at this point just wanna have fun,
Yeah.
but I mean, we're getting to present day here, but I appreciate the fact that I had an eye-opening moment where I was like, "This actually isn't gonna be attainable
No.
for me. I'm not gonna be able to do this," and that's why I decided to go to school. I was like, "A degree is a degree, and I need a plan B,"
Mhm.
and you see all these people working so hard and, like, not getting anywhere because of the finances. I didn't wanna be that.
And it's
So
funny how you talked about deciding to not go to school because I feel like it was the very opposite for me where everybody put so much pressure on me to go to school. I had
mhm,
no interest in going to college. It wasn't even something that I thought of. And I went to school and I was like, I have no idea what to major in. I'm just going to major in math because I like this. And up until my junior year, everyone was asking me what I wanted to do for a career. And I was like, I don't know. I'm just going to ride. Megan one day sat me down and she was like, "Are you gonna get an actual job after this? Like, I do not see you having a career. I think you're just gonna do the horses, and I don't know why you're in college if you're just gonna do horses. She's like, "Why are you paying for school?" So and that was really challenging for me because it was super isolating where, like, I had this industry that I really wanted to work in and all of these people that I had grown close to, and I felt like I had a community, and from my perspective, everybody was like, "No, you need to leave. Like, you need to get out." But I'm so
Yeah.
grateful for the people who were willing to tell me the truth and tell me the things that I didn't wanna hear, because I very much feel like that was the right path for me, but it was isolating and challenging at times, and it was also hard being in college, and I wasn't the driver for myself. I was doing it because I was supposed to, but I didn't have, like, the intention of ever going, and I never had the want to go. I just was like, "I'm in too deep, I'm just gonna stay now and finish."
Yeah.
So it's interesting how, like, we have very different perspectives on school and, like, going to school and when we went and all of that stuff, even though we were friends for so long beforehand, and we were friends as we were making these decisions as well, which is really funny.
I actually remember talking to you about that and being like, "You know, you should definitely go to school."
Yeah,
Yeah, I was almost trying to convince you how bad this is right now, like, how bad it feels. I think I started the mourning
yeah.
process at that time subconsciously when I was like, "Okay, these
And
people have an insane amount of money, and
I
I
even
don't."
feel that way about grooming. Like, looking back, I'm like, "Why did I groom when I could have gotten an internship and made 4 times more money and worked half the amount of hours?
Yeah.
Why did I do that?" But it's so weird because I feel like there's just a love for the sport and for the animals. It's almost like a drug, and it's like I was willing to give everything up in pursuit of it, and that still is true in some ways. I kinda have to reel myself in moments in time, but it's
Yeah.
I guess it's kind of like anybody who has a hobby.
I was gonna say, I'm sure, like, there are a lot of other people that, even if you aren't a horse person and any other sport, like, even my boyfriend, I feel like, went through the same thing with wrestling, like, it was
Yeah.
something that he was really good at and different clearly because that doesn't really fully rely on finances, but, like,
Mhm.
it kind of is over with college, right? Like, if
Yeah.
you're so, I don't know, it's
But I think that that's just
yeah, I was gonna say, I think that there's
everybody.
there's a lot more stuff that we can, like, unpack here, but I'm happy that we did this because I really just, like, blocked that stuff out, like,
Yeah,
my past with the writing out of my brain so much. I have tried not to think about it for so long because I was, like,
yeah.
not in a good headspace that I actually appreciate thinking about this stuff and, like,
What's
how it's, molded us into
yeah.
who we are today.
About this over this past weekend because I actually had time to groom my horses, so I was doing that,
Mhm.
and I was just reflecting on everything and how I got to this point, and I was very much thinking, "If you only knew." Kind of was looking
Yeah.
back at my younger self, and I'm like, "If you only had a clue what you were getting into."
I don't know if I would like, there are some things that I would do different if I could go back in time, but I honestly think I would have gotten into a lot of trouble if I didn't get
Yeah.
involved with horses. Like, there was a moment where I was like, "I wish I never got involved in it," like, 'cause it was so heartbreaking.
Mhm. Yeah.
But, like, I really don't think I would do any of this different. Like, I think that we are who we are today for a reason. And
Mhm.
we're both very different. And weirdly, after going over our, origin stories, like it's weird that we have very parallel paths. I didn't realize um how parallel they really were.
We got to learn some stuff about each other, which was definitely really cool.
It's super cool. Yeah, we'll have a lot more to talk about in episodes to come.
I think it's really cool how this has been something that we've been so involved in, but there's so many parallels with other things, like you brought up the wrestling. So I really love to hear about any other stories that people have or any similarities as well, because it's so cool to learn. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Unstable Conversations. We hope you enjoyed reminiscing with us about our starts in the industry. Next week, we'll be building off this by going more in depth about the positive and negative ways these experiences have shaped us. Don't forget to follow us on Spotify, YouTube, and Patreon so you don't miss the next one. Thanks again for being here. We'll catch you next week.